Hi everybody. So this week we're looking at introducing cascading style sheets into our web development. At the moment, this is my example page that's shown here on the left-hand side. And as you can see, it's quite plain, it's quite straightforward. We've just got regular Times New Roman text. It's just black with a white background. And I've got my couple of images and my hyperlink added in from last week's task. So the reason that we use cascading style sheets, and again, I'm going to let you read through this presentation yourself, which is obviously uploaded in our Teams. The HTML was never intended to contain tags for formatting a web page. HTML was all about creating the content that goes into your web page. So when they initially started adding in things like colors and changing font styles and things like that, it became an absolute nightmare for those that were developing the web pages because they had to go into every single individual web page to add in the colors, to add in the font styling and so on. It became a very, very long and laborious process, and obviously quite expensive because the companies were having to pay these web developers to do that. So then we introduced cascading style sheets. Now it's a sort of little language all of its own, and it's a standard way that we use to implement and display your web pages, okay? Every web page created has basically two files now. We've got one file which contains what is going to be displayed, that's your HTML file, and then we've got another file that explains how it's going to be displayed, and that'll be your CSS file. There are three ways to add in style sheets into our website. This week, we're going to be looking at adding in an external style sheet, which is the way I would recommend that you use for most of your websites. You would only use the other two that we'll look at next week. We'd only use them if you have specific changes you want to make to a particular web page, okay? But we're going to be looking at external style sheets. So we've got a few advantages of using cascading style sheet. Obviously, lots of people are using different devices with different screen sizes to view all their web pages nowadays. And with using CSS, we can control how they actually appear on their different displays. Our user gets a bit more precise control over the actual layout of the page than just by using the HTML tags and trying to set your styles in there. And we can apply different layouts to different media types, okay? So if we know that the pages are going to be printed, then we can set a particular type for that or a style for that. If we know it's going to be displayed on screen, then again, you can set styles for that. The main advantage, though, that I have found of using style sheet is that you can create one style sheet and that can be applied to hundreds of web pages, okay? If you have to make any changes, all you need to do is to go back to that one style sheet. You can apply your changes there, and all of the changes will be applied to each of the web pages that are linked to that style sheet. So it's much, much, much more efficient when it comes to changing the style of your website, okay? I was mentioned there with the having different rules for different devices. So there are different rules for different devices that have different screen widths and display the websites differently. It's called responsive web design. You know yourself, if you look at a website on your phone and then look at the same website on a desktop, they have a different kind of format, a different layout, and we can use style sheets for that, okay? So how style sheets actually work then? It is a formal language. It has its own defined syntax, and it's made up of a set of rules which define how the particular page of the part of the page will look, okay? So we have a selector. Now the selector identifies which part of the HTML page is going to be affected, okay? Which part is it you want to set the style for. We then use curly brackets, okay? So you'll know them, they're on your keyboard next to the letter P. You've got your opening curlies and you've got your closing curlies. And within the curly brackets, we have a declaration, okay? Now, our declaration can consist of one or more attributes that will actually tell you what value we want on this slide, okay? Or on the page. So here's how it kind of looks, right? This is me. I'm going to change my H1 selector. So I want my heading 1 to be changed. This is called the selector part here. We then open up our declaration with a set of curly brackets, and we put in the properties for this attribute here, what we actually wanted to have. So the property I'm going to change here is the color. All right, so it's just going to change the color text. Now, notice the spelling, okay? It's all American spelling when we're using style sheets in HTML, okay? So color misses out the U there, it's color. We have a colon in between them. So we're telling it's color and putting a colon, and then you tell you what the value is. I'll come on to speak a little bit more about colors in a second. So that's that declaration finished. We then put a semicolon in, and you can put in another declaration if you want. You can have as many declarations in there as you want to, changing up all these different attributes for your H1 there. Okay, this one again, I've also set my font size to just a size 12, just as an example. Okay, PX is for your number of pixels, all right, so its font size there is PX. You can also use PT, and that tells you your point size, okay? So we've kind of gone through this. Yep, each declaration block contains one or more declarations. Separate them with semicolons. So for every declaration you put in, put a semicolon in between it. Each declaration has your property name and the value. Separate them with a colon. And then your whole declaration block is surrounded with your curly brackets. Okay. Once you've done that, if you're happy with that and all you want to do is change your H1 selector, then you can save your file there and save it as a .css file. Okay, again, we'll come on to that in a little bit more detail. So CSS selectors are used to find or select the HTML elements based upon either their element name or an ID. You can give different HTML elements an ID, or you can give them a class, okay? Now for this week, we're going to be just looking at selectors. We're going to be looking at the element selectors, okay? I'll teach you all about IDs and classes next week as well. So this is what we look like. Mentioned it before there. This time I'm going to design all my paragraph elements on the page. So I would put in my selector, it's just the P, curly brackets. Now you'll notice this time I've actually put the style of it down the way. This is quite it's a good habit to get into, especially if you're going to be changing a number of different elements. Attributes within here, okay? You want to maybe list them down the way, and then it's easy to go and see which ones it is you want to change. So rather than putting them in a big long line going across the way, put your declarations so they're down one underneath the other, and then obviously finish off with your closing curly bracket. This time is setting the color to red, and I've got my font size set to 16 here. So some of the different other things that you can change, some of the attributes that you can change, okay? We can change your font family. Now that's used to change the font type. If the font type consists of more than one word, then you have to enclose it inside inverted commas, okay? So for example, if I wanted to change my font family to Arial, because it's just one word, I don't have to put it inside inverted commas. But if I was to change it to Calibri Light, you'll notice the difference there. I've got it inside inverted commas, okay? So it's font family. And again, this can be applied to any of your styles that you're going to be adding fonts to. So paragraphs, headings, remember your headings go from H1 right through to H6, so you can set all of those. Font size, we've seen before. Again, we've got your font, hyphen size, used to change the size of the font. And as I mentioned, it can be point size, so using PT, or it can be pixel size using PX, okay? There's a very, very slight difference in the sizes of them. A lot of it will be to do with the screen that you're using, okay? When we come on to changing the color, all right, we can change the appearance of the fonts with the color, all right? Now, if you just use color straight as that, that's going to change the actual color of the font itself. Now, we can change the color of a font in 3 different ways, all right? We can use it by stating the name of the color. So, for example, this one here is hot pink. You'll notice there's no spaces between the hot and the pink. So we can actually use the color name. We can use a hexadecimal code, which I'll tell you about in a little bit. And then we can also use our RGB codes, okay? So there's 3 different versions. All of these would actually change my text color to hot pink, okay? So we have our different methods of inputting colors. So the first one then, as I mentioned, the color name, all right? Most modern browsers can support around about 140 different colored names. W3 Schools has actually got a list of the common colors that are supported, so it's a really, really handy link there if you want to go to that. So you can see things like coral, chocolate, you've got corn silk, crimson, cyan, and so on, okay? Dark cyan. There's no spaces in between them. Each of the names there, you'll notice underneath, if you can look really, really closely, you'll see there is a hashtag and then a little code. Those are your hexadecimal colors, okay? So hexadecimal uses base 16. Normally, like decimal, we're used to has base 10. So you've got your numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Because hexadecimal uses base 16, they need to have some extra numbers, if you like. And what they've used then is to have some letters instead of the numbers. So we use A, B, C, D, E, F. So you'll see up here, The first two numbers actually account for the amount of red. The second two is the amount of green, and the last two is the amount of blue. So if you vary these at all, you'll get lots of different colors, okay? So you could have 23, 45, B6 or whatever in there, okay? So a whole different variety. It gives us thousands of different colors that you can actually apply to your text. The same point, we've got another way of putting in your colors here, and this is using your RGB. So it's red, green, blue. So the same kind of format, amount of red, amount of green, amount of blue, but it's set up so it looks like this. Your maximum value you can have for your amount of red is 255, so you can have any value between 0 and 255. Amount of green is also the same, and the amount of blue is also the same. Okay, so whichever preference you have for stating colors or changing colors, you can use it, it doesn't matter. We then also have our text align. Now this can be used to set where your text appears on the page. That can be left, center, or right. And again, spot the spelling for center there. It's American spelling, okay? So again, if you want your headings to go into the center of the page, you can set it H1 text align center, okay? Paragraph text align left, or you can have H2 text align right, okay? Background colors used to change the background color of a page or a particular area. Again, we'll look at that. I'm going to be telling you about using division tags when we go back to look at some more HTML. And so you can set up particular colors or blocks of area in your page to have a different color. Okay, so background colors, we set them usually with the body and then background hyphen color, again, American spelling, colon, and then whatever color you want to set it. And again, you can use your hexadecimal codes. You can use your red, green, blue codes for that as well. Okay. So the next part you're going on to then is we're going to actually try this. So what I would like you to do is to open up a blank notepad or a notepad++ file and key in just that. Okay, you don't need any HTML code or anything like that. It's just purely keying those values therein. Okay, this is obviously going to change your heading 1, paragraph, and then putting in a background color. The important thing when you've got all this keyed in is you're going to save the file as example style, there's no spaces, .css. Now this is the same as when we saved your HTML file. Please make sure you save it with types, all types. Okay, so it's example style.css, all types. Save it into the same folder that you have got your example web page saved to. Okay, and then you won't notice any differences, all right, because this is purely you've just set up your style sheet. So the next thing that we need to actually do then is we need to apply your style sheet to your HTML document, okay? Now, as I mentioned before, there are 3 ways of inserting a style sheet into your document. This week, we're going to be looking at external style sheets only, okay? So to put an external style sheet into your web page, into your HTML page, go into and open up your HTML file. And then within the head area, okay, so within the head tag, we put this line in, okay? So it's link rel equals style sheet, type equals text / CSS, and then href. So this is your actual link to your style sheet. So whatever you've saved your style sheet as, that is what you put into there. The rest of this line will not change at all, okay? So this is a line of code that you will always use whenever you're linking to a style sheet. The only thing that will change is the name of your style sheet that you're applying there, okay, depending on what you call it for your website. All right? And then after that, we should apply it to your text. So what I'm going to do then, there's my web page I've got open. I've already created my style sheet here. Okay, there's my example style sheet I've created there, and it's called example style.css. So I'm going to go into my home page here. I'm going to go and add this in here. Okay, so we've got link rel equals style sheet, type equals text / CSS, href equals, and then put in the exact name of your style sheet. If you've used capitals, use capitals where you've used them. And then remember to close off your link as well, okay? So I'm going to save my page again. It's just currently saving there just now. Now come back to my website, and if I refresh it, you'll see it's now applied my style sheet to that page. So I've got my heading, is now as it should be here. If I open this up, my heading is red, my font size has changed to size 20. The paragraphs, my font family has changed to Arial. There's my paragraph here, so you can see it's in a different font from the previous ones. Color of my paragraph is dark red, and the body, my background page, is linen. Okay, so that's how we go about applying an external style sheet. So you can have a play around with that. Go and add in some other different elements in there. You can add in your H2s, H3s, whatever it is that you want to. Try changing up the different colors. Go on to W3 Schools, have a look at what colors they've got available. Try mixing it up using your hexadecimal, using your red, green, blue, just to see what you get going, and just have a play around. Just mucking about with your example sheet just now. Leave your own websites until next week after I've shown you some of the other bits and pieces there. But just have a play around with your example sheet just now. Okay.